past Butler's Wharf, there's another dock entrance coming up. Now this is the entrance to the St Saviour's dock. Now this may look familiar to a few people on board. Has anyone seen the original film of Charles Dickens' Oliver Twist? Do you remember Fagan's Den at Pickpocket Beach instead of Muddy Old River? Look up there as you go past, that's where all the location work was actually filmed for Oliver. And you can see it hasn't really changed at all. Because once again, they're all listed buildings. And they're all virtually exactly the same as when they done the original film for Oliver Twist. As opposed to like Holland and Germany are these barges to live on. I don't know much from the outside, but inside some of them are absolutely state of the art. And twice the size of some of the one-bedroom apartments. I'll give you an example of how pricey property is. Look on the left. See the glass buildings, the end block, the round bit on the top, the penthouse. That's sold off plan what was ever built about 12 years ago for £5.5 million. That's actually cheaper than today's prices, though. But to those sort of prices, we get a lot of rich and famous living on the banks of the Thames. If you keep looking to the right hand side, we have the opening in the River Wall. Now, it's the old Wapping Dock, on the left hand side. There's an opening in the River Wall, it's the old Wapping Dock entrance. Now, it's been filled in today, but the house on the corner is the old dockmaster's house, and it belongs to a man called Michael Crawford. He started the Phantom of the Opera. More favourite to me though, he was Frank Spencer and some others to have him.
Yeah, this is Canary Wharf. We are going to Greenwich.
Where you'll see a white marquee, Oliver's Wall. Behind the white marquee is a pub. It's called the Town of Ramsgate. Now, the Town of Ramsgate used to also be used as Admiralty Court. If you was found guilty of piracy or smuggling in the Town of Ramsgate, you'd have been sentenced to a form of execution known as the Grace of Wapping. Wapping is the part of Landlow there in East Sussex. Now, once found guilty, they waited till low water, took you out the pub and led you down that flight of stairs. That's the Wapping Old Stairs. Led you along the foreshore to the small warehouse on the end with the letter E in the middle, the execution dock. The Grace of Wapping, you would have been taken to the beach and chained down to it for 36 hours, where 3 full tides would pass over your head before you were pronounced well and truly dead. The man who started the whole legend man, after sentencing the pirates, he'd board a small rowing boat, he'd be rowed across the river. He'd go to this pub coming up on the right-hand side, the Angel of Rotherhithe, where he would sit on the balcony of the pub with his invited guests, watching the tide rise up and drown the old pirates. It's said that he found this highly amusing. The last pirate to be executed at Execution Dock was Captain William King in 1701. Now, coming up on the right, above the buildings, there's a church spire. It's the St Mary's Church, Rotherhithe. In the graveyard of this building lays the remains of a man called Captain Christopher Jones. Anyone ever heard of him? Any Americans on it? Yeah? Ever heard of Christopher Jones? No? I'll talk about him in a moment, because if you keep looking to the right, there's a chimney pot. Beneath it, it says Thames Tunnel Mills. Very shortly, we go over the top of the first ever underwater tunnel anywhere in the world. In 1843, Mark Brunel opened the Thames Tunnel, and it is still used to this day by the Metropolitan line. But keep looking to the right, because there's an English and American flag flying over there. As we go past them, there's a pub. It's called the Mayflower. Now look at the weather vane up on the top. It's a tiny little sailing ship. Now it's actually over there in Rotherhithe where the famous pilgrim ship Mayflower was actually built. Captain Christopher Jones, who's buried in St Mary's, he was the captain and part owner of it. And he set sail from there in 1620. It went down to the south coast of this country where it picked up the pilgrims. And it then headed to the country back then they called the New World. Today they call that country America. 2 years ago was the 400th anniversary. There were supposed to be big celebrations on this side and the other side of the Atlantic, but unfortunately, due to COVID, due to the pandemic, it all had to be cancelled. But there again, everything was cancelled a couple of years ago, wasn't it? Well, unless you worked in Parliament, of course. But coming up on the left-hand side, there's a small white painted building. It's called the Prospector Whitby, the oldest registered pub on the banks of the River Thames. It dates back to 1520, and it was built and opened in the reign of Henry VIII. Now, an awful lot of history's gone on in that pub. It was known for the famous pirates who used to use it. It was also also known for the notorious press gangs. It's in a place called Shadwell, which used to be an old shanty town. And what would happen, the press gangs would hang around outside a pub like that, waiting for a young man to come out after having one too many, and they would cosh him over the back of the head. When he wakes up and he comes round, he's aboard a ship, he's on his way out to sea. He's just been press ganged into the Royal Navy. Nobody wanted to join the Royal Navy back then, so life expectancy was no more than 2 years before dying of scurvy or something far worse. Also to the left, look above the trees, there's another church spire. That's the St Paul's Church in Shadwell. And it was over there where a lady called Jane Randall was baptised. Now, Jane Randall, she emigrated to America. In America, she met a man called Peter Jefferson. They got married, their first child, they called him Thomas. And Thomas Jefferson became the third ever president of the United States of America. And the first one to actually have 2 terms. That's the area where his mother was from, and that's the church she was baptised in. Also to the left, that red brick monstrosity. I know it looks like it's been designed by a 5-year-old with his Lego bricks. It's actually a very clever design. There's over 400 apartments over there, and every single one of them gets a riverside view. Obviously, the more views of the river, the more valuable the property. They're built on a part of land they call the Free Trade Wharf. And Free Trade Wharf gets its name from the days of the plague of 1665. When the plague was in London, no country would allow their ships up the Thames. All except for one, the Dutch. They said if it wasn't for the Dutch merchant navy, those who didn't die from the plague would have probably starved to death. So our government at the time granted all Dutch ships free trade. They didn't have to pay any in their port taxes. It was all completely exempt. And they also say that's where they get the old-fashioned saying from, the Dutch courage. But keep looking along there to the left, because there's another opening coming up in the river wall. Just the red brick building on the corner just before it is the narrowing Lighthouse, one of Gordon Ramsay's gastro pubs. If you don't know the difference between a gastro pub and a normal pub, it's quite simple. It's about another £3.5 a pint. But as we go past the entrance, the bridge on the top says the Lighthouse of Arena. Now this was always known as the Regent's Dock, or the Regent's Canal Dock. Look above the bridge, there's that white glass building on the skyline. Well, just before it, there's a concrete pillar with a red statue on the top. That's where the Regent's Dock ends, and that is where the Regent's Canal actually starts. Once you join the Regent's Canal, you join over 1,000 miles of canal system. You can get in a small narrowboat and you can navigate up to places like Birmingham and Manchester. We dug them canals out by hand over 400 years ago to bring cargoes up and down from to England. And then someone invented the train, and we pretty much forgot where they were. The trouble is it could take up to 3 weeks to get there by barge, and when the trains come along, they can do it so much quicker. Now also to the left-hand side, there's an opening in the river wall, the entrance to the lime kiln dock. Now it's actually up the end of there where they had the lime kilns, basically where they made the bricks to rebuild London after the Great Fire of London of 1666. Charles II was on the throne at the time, and after the Great Fire, he said that the main London would be built by timber. It must all be built by brick and stone. And that's where a lot of the work come from, to rebuild the city. Talking of building work, looking to the left, see all these tall tower blocks. It's hard to imagine it was only just over 30 years ago when the buildings existed. This was all the old sites of the London docks. And in the London docks, there was a wharf where the ships come over from the Canary Islands. The Fred Olsen shipping line used to bring us cargoes of fruit to the Canary Wharf. But over the years, it's moved down and all the areas for the water now to the butters. Into the little village parts of Europe. See the building with a pointed roof and a flashing light on the top? The Canada Tower, the first ever tower block to be erected in the air,